Hi everyone, this is Paul, one of the developers from Cantos Games working on our persistent multiplayer RTS game, Colonizer. This was supposed to be a late game defense test. The idea was simple: take a developed colony, give it walls, towers, units, and a proper defensive setup, then see how long it could survive against a coordinated group of attackers. It didn't go exactly as planned. The defenses fell faster than expected, the attackers found pressure points very quickly, and once the fighting spread across multiple sides of the base, it became far harder to recover. But honestly, that made the test much more useful, because instead of just recording a heroic last stand, we got a much clearer look at where late game defense currently works, where it struggles, and what we need to improve before we can make this kind of scenario feel truly balanced. Let's get back before the attack. Before the attack started, the colony looked fairly secure. I developed a base, stone walls, towers, some production buildings, enough space inside to keep a little bit of eco running during the siege. On paper, this should have been a strong defensive position. The goal wasn't necessarily to defeat every attacker. The goal was to survive, adapt, and see whether the colony could hold under pressure, with the hope I'd eventually expand outside of it. The attackers were allowed to coordinate, but I didn't know their exact plan. I just knew pressure was coming. I didn't know from where, when, or how quickly it would escalate. That distinction matters because defending a colonizer isn't just about having walls. It's about reading the situation quickly enough so you can move to the right places, repair what matters, and decide what you can afford to lose and which battles make sense to trade. The first phase was about figuring out where the pressure would come from. At this point, the base still felt fairly stable. The walls were intact, the towers were doing their jobs, and I had enough units to respond to small attacks. But even here you can see already one of the big challenges with defending a larger colony. Attention! When everything is quiet, the base looks manageable. But once enemy units start appearing near different entrances, every part of the base suddenly becomes a possible weak point. Do I reinforce this side? Do I move units closer to the walls? Do I keep them near production buildings? Do I commit early, or do I wait until the attackers show their real plans? Tend to escalate over time. From the attacker's perspective, this was not random pressure. They were scouting the base looking for weak spots and trying to figure out how to stretch my defense. A coordinated attack changes the entire dynamic. One attacker can be contained, two attackers managed, but once several players start applying pressure at the same time, the defender is forced to split attention, split unit count, and make choices without having perfect information. This is exactly where the test became interesting. It's worth mentioning that because Colonizer supports up to 30 concurrent players, it does increase the importance of team play, alliances, and making sure you balance your diplomacy. Once the attacks started escalating, the colony began to feel much less secure. The walls still mattered, the towers still helped, but the attackers weren't just throwing units at the strongest point. They were creating pressure, pulling attention, and looking for openings. This is where we start to see the difference between a base that looks strong and a base that can actually survive coordinated pressure. A good defensive setup needs to buy time to react, to move units, to repair, to understand where the real danger lies. In this version of that test, the reaction window felt too short, especially for this game, which is meant to have a longer time horizon. Once the attackers managed to stack pressure, it became difficult, nearly impossible to stabilize before something else needed attention. From my side, the hardest part was not just one single attack, it was the accumulation. One wall takes damage, units team to move, another side gets exposed, a building needs repairs, a production router eco gets interrupted. Before I knew it, I wasn't just making strategic choices anymore, but just trying to stop the base from falling apart everywhere, all at once. That kind of chaos is good for Colonizer. It's part of what makes the game exciting, but it still needs to be readable, fair, and above all, balanced. The defender should feel pressured and not helpless, although in this situation again, it's unusual to have so many players concentrating against one player at a single time. In this test, there were moments where the pressure escalated faster than the defensive tools could realistically recover. Looking at the attacker footage, the turning point becomes easier to understand. The attackers were able to coordinate pressure in a way that forces the defenses to react instead of controlling the fight. Once a weak point appears, they could just push into it right before I had time to properly reset. That doesn't mean coordinated attacks should be weak, they should be dangerous. It's tough to get several players to coordinate all at once. But the important question is, how much time should a strong colony be able to buy? Because if the attackers coordinate well, they should be rewarded. At the same time, if a player has invested into defensive, walls, towers, and positioning, those choices should also matter. The test showed us that the balance between those things is not quite there yet, particularly long term when offline players need to have more tools at their disposal, like stances, improved unit behaviors, patrols, and so on, to make sure they can properly defend their colony even when offline. Once the defense started breaking, things moved quickly, and this is where the original idea for the video changed. We wanted to record a longer defense scenario, something that showed a colony holding through multiple waves of attacks. Instead, the colony collapsed far faster than expected. This should sound like a failed test, but I don't see it that way. This is exactly why we do these recordings. A proper late-game defense shouldn't be impossible to break. If anything, bases that are completely untouchable are worse for the game. But defense needs pacing. There should be stages, first pressure, then damage, then a breach, then a fallback, then a desperate attempt to stabilize. In this test, some of those stages were compressed far too tightly. Once the attackers found momentum, the colony didn't have enough room to create a proper second line of defense. So what do we actually learn? First, coordinated players are extremely dangerous, which is a good thing. Colonizer works best when players interact, plan, betray, defend, and attack all in ways that create real stories in-game. Second, late-game defense needs to buy more time. Not necessarily guarantee survival, but give the defender more opportunities to react and make meaningful decisions. Third, readability matters a lot. When multiple things are happening at once, the defender needs more clear information about where the pressure is coming from and what is about to fail. Fourth, we need to continue testing walls, towers, siege damage, garrisoning, fallback positions, repair pacing. All of these systems affect how long a developed colony can realistically hold, and all need improvement. And finally, we learned that a good defense video needs better balance before we record it properly. This was not the heroic last stand I expected, but it gave us something useful. A clear look at how coordinated pressure works right now, how quickly a developed colony can collapse, and what we need to do so future sieges feel tense, fun, and fair. This is one of the benefits of building a game like Colonizer with players involved. Sometimes the test does not give you the clean story you expect, it sometimes gives you an even better one. And this siege showed us that the core idea is exciting. A developed colony under pressure is exactly the kind of scenario that Colonizer should be able to create. Now we just have to make sure the defender has enough tools, time, and clarity to make that fight as interesting as we hope it can be. Thanks for watching, it's genuinely appreciated. If you want to help us test these systems, wishlist Colonizer on Steam, please join the playtest and let us know what you think on Discord. Take care and be well.